Hello, everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTrain.tv, where every day is an awesome day to learn about the Claris FileMaker platform. If you go to the FMTrain.tv website, you can see that we are continuing our conversation on FileMaker Server and really focusing on, I think you can do it on premise with FileMaker Server, but we're also spending a lot of time talking about AWS because a lot of people prefer to use that. I think overall my life is vastly more simpler and more reliable because I use AWS and I don't roll our own hardware anymore. I only do that for my personal FileMaker server, which some of you folks see sometimes. It's good for demos, things like that, and making sure you understand it. But the problem is if you abstract all the FileMaker server stuff away from you, then you never get to play with it, and you don't maintain that skill set. Now, the live stream today is largely for people who are on the more, what do we say, smaller customer, intermediate level customer, you're not a giant enterprise. Moving forward, if you want to support the channel, we greatly appreciate that part of the conversation. If you go to FMTrain.tv at the top, if you scroll to the top real quick, Margaret, the screen always flashes, and when you scroll really fast, no one can see it. Little animated thing happening over here. People, oh, look at that. It's our diagram. That's so cute. If you scroll down, and this is like your Patreon subscriber level. You can pick a subscription level, get one of the subscriptions here. That way I can pay these people the money that they deserve and are owed, which is good. All right, so let's rewind to yesterday briefly. This is yesterday. So once again, as a reminder, these live streams this week are cumulative live streams. So we're day one, day two. If you haven't caught the previous days, today is going to be kind of confusing a little bit. But we've been talking about terminology. So everyone ready? 1, 2, 3. What is an instance? Margaret, what's an instance? Is a what?
Instance is your server or your slice of a server that
Virtual
acts
server.
like your server. Yes.
It's a virtual server, which is
Yes.
probably a slice of a bigger piece of hardware. Okay. That's one.
Yes.
Okay. Security group is a firewall. We played with that yesterday. Volume is a hard drive. We played with that yesterday. We talked about network packets, network latency, packet loss. These are basic terminologies that all of us, as a basic FileMaker developer, we should really need to have. I mean, if it's your first week, you don't give a shit. But if you've been doing FileMaker for more than, say, 6 months, these are things that you should probably know. These terminologies here are generally going to be useful not just on Amazon, but everywhere else. They're not really Amazon specific. These two right here are Amazon specific. S3, once again, is the FTP in the sky, a big FTP server. And EC2 is their service where they sell you slices of FileMaker servers. The Big Valley folks have a slice of server. It's running a Linux machine. So the we're we're going to be showing today is the stuff that we are using here with real customers, right? We eat our own dog food. All right, so Mr. Taylor, let's talk about this. If we want to share your screen, and so previously we did terminology and overview. Yesterday we built the server, which basically means that we went into a web interface on Amazon, right there. If you just click on that briefly, just on there, here we go. We went to this interface. I'm going to just draw them with my hand here real quick. We saw that we had one instance, which means we have one FileMaker server. This is the server that is running right here, what it was set. This is the platform over here, the performance and processors and all that. We've kind of talked about all that. You can see all that on the line, and it is currently running right now. So if this was a Windows server, okay, back up. If you're running a Windows server, it'll look just like this. There's no difference except that you will see wherever it says operating system or something, instead of Linux, it'll say Windows Server 2019 or 20, whatever it would be, right? Um, so anyway, cool. So the server is ready. So it's a brand new box. There it is. It's Ubuntu. And we are using the 2204, which is a long-term release. We talked about that yesterday. We're not going to rehash that.
Yep.
So now we're ready to do, we added the one firewall exception for FileMaker Server, right?
Yep. Just to have it up in advance.
Have it in advance. And now we are ready to run the installer in Linux on this server. So we have to remote into the server. And this is normally where you remote control the screen of the Mac or Windows computer, but it's Linux, so we're going to do a command line, everyone? And this SSH is basically remote control this server. There we go. And if you're not comfortable with this, what you're seeing right here, then you probably want a Windows server.
Nope. Hold on. RCC something. Where's my string? RC, see? It's right there.
There's the name. Okay, so there.
That says, all
So
right, so I means for identity file, identity. Who am I? I'm logging into the server. It needs to know. There you go.
Okay, so this is okay. Remember we talked about not a username password. We talked about your ID. You're flashing your
Yep.
badge. FBI, can I have a chat with you about what you've been doing?
You're going to
Yep.
say yes.
Flash
It
your
yelled
badge.
at me. Perfect.
Okay.
Let's see.
This says we found your badge. We see your badge. Blah 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 blah.
I'm demonstrating showing my butt here because you'll have to fix this yourself if you're on a Mac. This won't apply if you're on a Windows because it doesn't have Windows computer locally because it doesn't have permissions issues like this. But
okay, so what's going on right here? What am I looking at?
So
What's
our
happening?
key is insecure. The key file is insecure on our own computer. And they are
Which means
telling us that we need to secure it better. Yes.
So it's a plain text. So our badge we got, our ID badge is plain text.
Yep. We're holding it up to the camera, which is incorrect. It needs to be covered. Don't let them photograph the QR on the back. Yes. Okay.
Okay, got it. So
We're gonna do
chmod.
that. Yep. 400 means read only and only for me. The zeros mean no one else can access it. If you're on a single user computer, that end of it doesn't matter at all to you. The key thing that this application is looking for is that your key is secure to no one else on the computer. So I have to solve two problems. I can't mess with the file. I can undo it. I can change it. Obviously, it's my computer, but neither can anyone else on my computer. It's looking for that because a lot of these systems, Mac and Linux computers, for example, are you may be the only user on that computer in practice, but they are built to be multi-user systems. And so right now, or before I run this command, anybody, we're going to use air quotes here, could mess with that file. In practice, not really, because I'm the only user, but
we see that sometimes on Mac. Some of you are on Mac. We do an installation. It says, would you like to install this application so only you can use it or everyone can use it, right? That's that same idea. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And so I'm going to use the key thing for terminal. Up arrow means you can run commands over again. So I'm just going to do that. And now we're in. We're up on the server. Cool.
Okay, so stop. Can you scroll back? Let's see. Scroll. So we can read this? It just went by really fast. Okay, so
it didn't go by really fast. It's bigger than my screen because I zoomed in so you can read it.
No, I know. Let's see. So it says Ubuntu. So that, okay, hang on.
You don't need to read any of this.
Well, but what if I wanted to see it a little bit? Let me just see it for a second. Okay. So this is marketing bullshit. It's the most amazing product ever. Here's our product here. Maintenance and subscriptions not enabled. Updates can be applied immediately.
There are any updates.
Okay, scroll down some more if you would for me, please. What does it say? Program.
Licensing, copyright information.
License, copyright. Was that all there was? Okay, great. But it says there's absolutely no warranty. Okay. Sudo app update. Oh, you're running updates right now?
We're going to run updates. This pulls up the list of updates. Doesn't apply them. Now we're going to go sudo apt upgrade.
So we ran update first, and we ran update.
Everything looks good. We're not removing anything. Looks good.
Okay, so to be clear for everyone, here's the deal with this: is that if you don't play with command line, you're not a Linux person. Just step back and understand that this is I'm giving you big picture stuff, and that's all you have to know. Like Margaret, not a command line person to my knowledge, right? So, but everything that we're doing here largely we will do on Windows, but you'll do it in the graphical interface on Windows for the most part. And you would do if you're on a Mac, you're going to buy a Mac, put it in your office, then you're going to run updates. Remember, we run updates, and you say, "Oh, run the updates now. Put your password in." Then this is what we call a verbose mode in a command line. It's just like it's spewing everything it sees out. A lot of you accuse me of talking too much. I got that. People yelled at me. I was flying the Black Hawk, and they said I talk too much. I'm like, okay, I'll be quiet. But for a live stream, it's kind of important. So it's being very verbose. Progress 98%. And then it'll get to the end. So first we download the updates, then we ran them basically. So it was update, then upgrade, I think. Ooh, newer kernels available. So this is,
I'm hitting OK.
Okay, you hit OK.
You know how everyone hits OK? They get hit a dialogue and they say yes.
To everything.
Like, I don't know what to do. Say yes.
They say
We're saying yes.
Okay.
I'm going to reboot the server, and then we're going to actually do something useful here. So this is initial system setup. We deployed and configured some of the stuff yesterday, the machine, a
Mhm.
hard drive. So we have an operating system, we have a couple firewall rules.
Yep.
Nothing super interesting, but that's basic setup. So now we're inside the system. First thing you do, you're going to apply OS updates. That's what we just did. I
Okay.
can print the commands out, or if people need it, we actually have a doc with that somewhere. But that's like the first thing that you do. You always, get a Windows computer, you get a Mac, you get a Linux, whatever. You're going to apply updates.
Yep.
On Ubuntu, it's going to be sudo apt update, which pulls in the lists of applications because this is how Linux works. And then we did sudo apt upgrade, and then it's going to give you a list of like things that might change or whatever. And for the most part, unless it's removing something and you think that's concerning, basically you're going to say yes. So, and actually, if it does remove stuff, it may be normal, but I will just flag that to people, pay attention to things that it removes, just so that in case you find yourself up a creek lacking a paddle, you have some way to email somebody like me and help rescue yourself. So,
okay. Yeah. This is also why, once again, we say the people who are supporting your computer, you need to pick the operating system they're comfortable with, right?
Yep.
Jacob likes Linux, so he's okay with this, right? But if Jacob was only a Windows guy, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Because you don't want to be, if you're getting through this to get it going is one thing. Using Linux and then having to deal with an emergency where it crashes and you have to get your databases back and like that. You want someone who's reasonably decent with the operating system, right? So.
Where'd my IP go? There it is. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm doing this the silly way.
Okay.
Ubuntu. I'm going to explain what I'm doing in just a minute.
Okay.
All right. Now that's going. All right. So this is a big long line. I'm going to explain each part of it. Hopefully you can see all of that on screen, and I think you can. This little progress bar is going here. So first thing, SCP, Secure Copy Program. We are doing a file upload because I'm uploading there's two ways that you can do this. I could upload it from my computer, or I could download it from Claris. I guess we could demo that. It might be faster to download it. Honestly, I don't know. But there's time for this explanation anyway. So first, SCP, Secure Copy Program, works exactly like SSH, uses the same protocol, which is why I can just say I for identity file and then hand it this credential, this key file that we're going to use to log in. Second thing on here is FMS 21.1.4.400, Ubuntu 22, ARM64 edition. That is all of the different little details for this specific kind of server. If you're doing, as we mentioned yesterday, if you're doing like an Intel or AMD processor, you'll use the other one, which will say AMD 64 on the end. AMD invented the 64-bit version of the platform. Intel went big with it, and now they're back in a race properly these days. But there was about 10 years where Intel was kicking AMD's butt. But they got the name. AMD created it, and so they got the naming rights, basically. Last part, which you can see here, is the Ubuntu @ and this is the IP address of our server, of course. This part is key on the end. I think you guys can see my mouse. Hopefully the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I am the Ubuntu user, yes, and so I have a location that is, my home directory, and then I am the Ubuntu user. And so what I'm doing is I'm just taking this file, FMS installer zipped, and punting it here. That's all.
Okay.
So this will complete. Looks like it's 65%. It'll be done in another minute. Looks like it's got an ETA down there in the bottom right. It'll tell you approximately how long the upload will take. Once done, we're going to hit that up arrow a couple times and find our log back into the server. We'll then be up on the server with a FileMaker Server installer.
Yeah, it's a zip file that has the installer in it. So yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Questions from Margaret? I can only see Discord here. Let me take a look at Discord.
Discord is double checking some of the command to fix the permissions file was gmod 400, right?
Yep.
Yes.
chmod. Yeah, chmod 400.
I don't know why I said she. No one can understand that. I'm sorry.
SSH, David Angel saying SCP is to copy the file locally to the instance. Yeah.
And SCP is cool. You can reverse the last two parts, like it's an argument. So I'm providing my identity information and then a source and a destination. You could go the other way. You could actually like pull, if I put the remote location first and then a local directory, I could vacuum a file from up there down here. Like it doesn't
As long as you have that key, the
Yeah,
P
it's source destination. So if you're logging into a remote system because you want to download, I don't know, say like a zipped copy of your database, then you can point, you like this end here, it's home Ubuntu. You're probably going to have a much longer path, with your little zip or whatever out there. But you could reverse those and say source is up on the server, destination, my computer.
Perfect. All right.
So I think what was the other one? Oh, I'm going to do one more thing, which is I'm going to put the license certificate up on the server too. There's two different ways we can do that, but that one won't take long. All right, cool. So we're good. All right, so logging back into the server. We are now up on the server. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
I think this is going to fail, so we're going to do it immediately. There we have our two files. You can see them here. It's red because I forget what that means for the permissions. I think it means, yeah, it's read write only, and then read. Anyway, I think this is going to fail, which is why I'm going to demonstrate how to fix it. Yep, exactly. So it tells you how to fix it. It's one of the things that you require. You require this because it's a zip file, and you're like, oh, and I can't unzip stuff.
So the basic Unix or Linux or Ubuntu doesn't come with a unzipper that's built in as part of the operating system.
Okay.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Looks great.
So now it's not running yet. It just unzipped.
No, we just installed. All right, so now we're gonna do it.
Oh, we installed the zip app. Okay, now we're gonna unzip.
This time with enthusiasm.
Inflating with enthusiasm. Inflating.
Yep.
Okay.
So
inflating.
Yeah, because it's anyway. Because they were deflated when you zip them. It's like you're vacuum bagging. Yep. Vacuum packing. All right.
Carpet bagging. No, vacuum bagging, not carpet bagging.
Vacuum bagging. Yes. They have an install script now. I haven't even used that. Nice. That's all right.
Sudo. What is apt? Is that run? What's apt?
Apt. It's literally apt. It's apt as the package manager on Debian-based Linuxes, which Ubuntu is a Debian-based Linux.
Okay.
That's what they all use. FileMaker. There you go. If you were on, there was that moment when, there was that, Deb for Debian, Debian Deb package. There was that moment when FileMaker Server ran on CentOS, and so all of this was Yum, which is that's the name of the package manager on that operating system.
Okay.
We're gonna do this. Wonderful. We should scroll through this this actually is one to scroll through for giggles. So what we did up here is I have this file. So I'm in my own home directory. I've not moved anywhere, not relocated my command context, right? I'm still just, it's like home Ubuntu. Okay. So I'm doing sudo apt install. This // lets me directly reference a file that's right here. That's what dot means. It means current directory now, here, wherever I'm located presently. Okay. And then this is the actual FileMaker Server application installer itself that we extracted that was inside of the zip.
Okay.
It requires a whole bunch of stuff, all the things that underlie FileMaker Server, the application, which is a whole bunch of stuff on Linux. There's a bunch of new stuff that's going to be installed, so new packages or additional packages, sorry. There's some suggested packages. We're going to ignore those for the time being. And then we get to our final list, which goes all the way down and even brings in that actual zip application, which is indeed not even installed by default on Linux. They use gzip or something older, honestly. So we're just going to say yes. It's going to pull in a bunch of stuff and install a bunch more. So it says right there, it's downloading 600 megabytes of stuff, and it's going to be 3 gigs once installed. So I was slightly wrong yesterday when I said it was 2 gigs. It'll be 3 all told, but. So
it's running the installer right now. Is that correct?
Not yet. No. It's pulling in the prerequisites for FileMaker Server
for the installer. So
these are like system packages, fonts for PDF rendering server side, and some graphics libraries for rendering.
But is it just bringing them down, or is it actually installing these into the?
This is installing right now. The first chunk of stuff was when it downloaded things. It gave little progress bars and it downloaded 600 megabytes of stuff very quickly. And then it just popped it all out onto the hard drive. And now we are on perform pre-installation of FileMaker Server. So now FileMaker Server is going to ask us a battery of questions about how we want it to be configured. If you all have clicked through for like a Windows or a Mac FileMaker Server from install from scratch, you'll recognize many of these questions. They are the same questions. They're just asked on the command line instead. That's all.
So do we agree with the license
We agree with the
agreement?
terms. I believe we agree with the terms. We're going to say yes. We are not going to configure a WebDirect secondary machine. We're going to do a primary only.
So we want 0.
So we're going to do 0. So we're going to do admin. Want to use the most secure password ever.
Absolutely. 1, 2, 3,
Everyone
4.
likes. Oh, I was going to use password. We could do 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, we'll do 1, 2, 3. Wait, yeah, that's what we've been using on the show. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Do PASSWORD. Perfect. All right, there's our pin. We can do 1, 2, 3, 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. I'm going to forget that because that's not what we usually do. This is a Linux specific consideration. Basically, if
it's virtual memory, right? This is virtual
it is.
memory?
It's additional virtual memory, and you can basically just shove it on the hard drive. If you'd probably have to be medium technical to be familiar with this part of it, but if you've ever dealt with a swap file on Windows, same thing, literally. And on Linux, historically, it used to be that you had to have a swap partition, which is kind of a pain in the butt to set up because you have to like move disk space out of the way and do this kind of stuff, or shrink your stuff, or know that, oh, I need a 4 GB swap partition, so I'm gonna like make sure I'm 4 GB short setting up the hard drive. We have swap files now, and so you can just basically do the same thing that Windows does, which is you add free RAM. It's primarily used when you're using more memory, not too much memory. That's kind of an awkward way to say that, but you're using more memory than the system has available. That's fine, but it means that the operating system will take unused or not recently used things and put them out of the way. It doesn't get rid of them, it puts them out of the way. But that also means if you go back and try and use whatever that thing is again, it's got to pick it up off the hard drive much slower. So
if you have a fast hard drive, it's less of an issue, or if you have really great solid state memory. Yep.
Yeah, and honestly, when you're on like an on-site server, this is pretty fast, this stuff. But when you're on an on-site server, if you put stuff like that on an NVMe SSD, that would be preferred in general. Same as the database would be. Lower latency and faster, thumbs up. So means
so it's a solid state drive, but the NVMe is a kind of solid state drive, and it's pretty much top tier performance.
Yeah, you can have like the 3.5 inch laptop, or not, 2.5 inch laptop hard drives. Those are good SSDs, but they usually cap out in the 500 megabytes per second range.
Yes, correct.
Ballpark. And that's fine. They're good. They're excellent. You can take really old machines and plug them in there because they work. They're not different than a regular hard drive to like an old computer. But like an NVMe, they require a special plug. They're also hilariously tiny. They're like that big. They're tiny.
It's like a stick of chewing gum, like the old style stick of chewing gum. All right.
Sweet.
So now what do we got? So is this successful? Is it successful?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know I've never figured out what this is. It's complained about this for 2 versions now. Someday I need to figure it out. But
so I need to if I want to log into the admin console for this, I have to HTTP.
You'll need things that you probably don't have. So you have.
You don't have an SSL on this yet.
I do not have an SSL, so you're going to have to do extreme battle with your browser. And you're probably using Safari, so they may still let you work around that.
I can switch to Chrome. I think
it should have the default Claris.
But what address am I going to use to get to this thing? That 51 dot whatever one?
Yeah. 52.9.80.137. Here, let's do.
Yeah, give me that. Let's do HTTP //50. What was it? There it is. 52.9.80.137. Click.
And then it's just complaining to me because it comes with the default Claris SSL in it, which my browser doesn't, your browser, your computer's not going to recognize. And so they fight you for it because
yeah, I just hit
it's insecure.
Yeah, I proceeded with
It's
that.
a test system. We don't care.
Okay, then remember Margaret, remember what's the path? What's the path on this? Camp? Oh, Jacob.
/admin-console.
There you go.
I mean, I was busy typing it on my own computer, and then I looked over and realized you were talking to me. Yeah, Safari's not buying what I'm selling it.
Nope. I don't. They gave us like a moment when they would let you click, I don't know, 7 times to get around, and eventually they were like, nah.
Nah.
So we're gonna go in here. So this is like initial setup. You can do basically everything from this point. Again, you'll need, if you're on a Mac specifically, generally Safari will fight you to the end to let you do this. You may not be able to get around it. Chrome and others will let you, they'll make you click through stuff and yell at you really loudly, but they won't actually block you. So, so we'll use the default certificate because we're just doing a test setup right now. You should, and I mean capital S, should have an SSL installed in your system before it goes live. You will have difficulty using Data API and OData, WebDirect. FileMaker will complain at you.
Do we want to show that?
We can.
That part? How hard is it to show that?
I
mean, I think that's kind of an important part of the installation, to be honest with you. Okay, we see Chrome. Now we want to install the SSL on this
Correct. So
Linux machine.
We came in. We are where we were before in the demo, basically. So we logged in. We clicked through and said, all right, whatever. We're going to keep the default SSL certificate. We're now just basically going to change that again. So we're going to go details right there. This has taken me over to configuration and the SSL tab in the bottom left. We're just going to straight up import. We're going to do sign certificate, and I'm going to hope that I can find this thing. There it is. So I'm going to put our certificate in. By
the way, this is supposed to be better. It's one of the big features of 22 on the server is that free Let's Encrypt thing is supposed to be.
Yep.
I'm not supposed to say the word default on TV. So
hold on. Sorry, I'm relocating the window so that I can literally see the import button. The dialog, there's an import button at the bottom. That's it. Thanks. The only other thing worth noting here is if you, for example, are making your own SSL, there's a couple ways to do what we just did. One, we have all of our own keys and certificates and that sort of stuff available to us, so I can just import them. That's the first thing. Second, if you're doing this the only clicking way, avoiding touching the command line in general, you're going to go here and create a CSR. You're going to fill all these details out. You see that the red asterisks indicate what's really required. This is your FileMaker Server domain name. That's the big one. This would be your company name. That's the other big one. You'll go down. It'll spit you out files. You'll take those files to your SSL place. Not demoing that today. It's called a CSR, a certificate signing request. You have a key. You have a second file where you have produced a second. FileMaker Server does all this for you. I'm just explaining it. There's a second file, the CSR. Your FileMaker Server takes the key, creates a CSR. That is what it sounds like, a certificate signing request. We would request that you sign our certificate. Yes. You take that to the certificate authority. You hand that to them, and their computers go, oh, yeah, that sounds great. And you paid us money or whatever. Again, there's a free version of all of this. They sign it. What you get back is your certificates. That is the thing that you install into your FileMaker Server. You're going to put the certificate in, and in 21 and later versions, they yell at you now, which is great. If you do not put the intermediate, there's an intermediate certificate that almost invariably comes with when you get that back from GoDaddy or whoever you're buying from. It's completely solved for you if you use the new automatic system, the free one. But I'm just noting it because a lot of people still do manual SSLs. So put the intermediate in, always put the intermediate in. You will end up with an orange lock on FileMaker Server. Everything looks good, but if you fire it up in Pro and connect, it'll connect, but it'll have an orange lock. That means you failed to put the intermediate certificate in. There are several different things they now yell about. They tell you to bring the intermediate certificate in. Claris Connect, for example, if you ever expect to integrate with that, it will not connect to your server if you've not included the intermediate certificate. That's a fair warning. I don't know if they're going to fix that or whatever, but they put
No,
they put a
I
warning
guarantee
on the
that's
dialogue.
that's an Apple corporate policy.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so real quick, so
So
let me back this up a little bit. So the SSL conversation is one. I would get into this more deep, and we do a whole day on just SSL. However, this is changing. Well, okay, back up. So Claris, there's a
we should,
free. What's that? Let me just spend 2 minutes on
yeah,
this, Jacob. Then we'll leave it alone. There is it's called Let's Encrypt. It's a free encryption service, and every 90 days, instead of paying a lot of money, every 90 days, you can do this Let's Encrypt thing. Okay. Of course, Claris built Let's Encrypt in FileMaker Server, and no one used it. And including Wim de Court, all the top people like Jacob and stuff went right at Claris saying, "You built this, you only got it halfway done." So then a whole year elapses, and Claris decides that they're going to take the thing that never really worked well, and they're going to make it work well. And that's what's supposed to come in the next couple months, is this idea. So you are going to go through a setup process once. And you don't pay any money, it's free. And every 90 days or 85 days or whatever they decide to do, this system here is going to talk to the Let's Encrypt server. I'm going to say LE, Let's Encrypt server. And it's going to get a updated SSL and keep you up to date, kind of in perpetuity for free on the FileMaker server. And once you set it up, theoretically, you don't have to go back and babysit it unless something breaks, right, Jacob? Do I have that correct, more or less?
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the expectation. It's not that good as of the day that we're filming. It's supposed to be that good later.
Yeah,
No
well,
concern,
okay, yeah,
but
yeah. So FileMaker 21 is the one that we had a year ago, and they built it in. And then once you build it in, it never works more than 2.5, 3 months, and then it falls over dead. It just does. We can get into why, but it doesn't matter.
It has a built-in renewal. The reason I'm not demonstrating it and won't on live stream is because it requires a bunch of setup. And the people who need to use that are not the people who can do all the setup. It needs to be, it'll have basically 2 very solid good steps as of 22 to get done. The one remaining, I don't even know what to call it, product limitation, frankly, is that you still have to restart the FMS at the end, and there continues not to be a way around that, I think. That
Is it
may
going to
change
restart every
before
90
release.
days?
Yeah, short answer, yes.
Okay.
It'll be every couple months, but yeah.
Yeah. So just so understand that the Let's Encrypt, it's free, all this stuff, but it requires a FileMaker server restart currently every three months. I'm just say 3 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Claris has realized that this is an issue, so they're trying to remediate this. We're going to get into this in the next release, but largely the next version of FileMaker is, I mean, there's nothing earth-shattering change about it, but this is one of the nice features of the next release is that they're fixing this Let's Encrypt stuff. So the bottom line is you must have SSL on your FileMaker server, period. Either you pay for it or you get the free one. And it's not a 2-minute conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe
we could do a whole day on it, and we should once 22 is out, because I'm sure we'll
on Let's Encrypt, on that specifically.
Yep.
So we're going to kick that can down the road for a couple months because we really don't want to do it right now. All right, what else we got?
So I put the SSL in, as always, with FileMaker Server, and this was part of the whole commentary there. You got to restart FileMaker Server. I'm going to show how to do that on the command line, because I don't think you can restart it enough from the admin console to get the SSL fully loaded everywhere it needs to be.
Okay, so that browser was browser interface into the server. Okay.
Yep. There's the admin console.
Admin console. Okay. But now we're going to use the command line admin console, for lack of a better, to tell the server to really restart. There it is down there.
And that's what's on screen. Sudo service, which is what it sounds like. FMS helper, that is not FMS, but it is the program that controls all of FMS and is how you address it, basically. And then, restart is the restart command.
Is this so this is just a FileMaker server restart, not a Linux or Unix restart,
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
This will take down all dependent and connected services on the system that are FileMaker server, accoutrements, WebDirect, whatever. We haven't configured any of that stuff, but if they're running, for example, on your own system or something. So it came back. It's good.
Great.
We have no errors, no screaming, no complaints, etc. Great. So we came back. We're now waiting. We're actually, let's see, what did I do? Did I do test.rcc.com? I think that's what I did. See if this works. I'm guessing.
We have a question while we wait for the spinny wheel of joy.
Excellent.
Does Let's Encrypt work for Windows?
I don't have a good way to answer any of those questions. Today, 21, the answer is no. No, it does not. It also doesn't work on Mac. Thanks, or you're welcome. No, wait, does it work on Mac? It might work on Mac.
No, it works on Mac. It's got the 90
Is
day.
still the command line setup?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same
limitations. Anyway, it's eventually the answer is yes.
In the future release, this will be better. Yes.
Yeah, you don't actually want to use it right now again because there's too many sharp edges. It requires a bunch of additional setup. You actually honestly required previously to edit like a shell script to put your domain information in to get it like it's that kind of setup. It's not like, oh, I run a little script really quick and it like does all the work for me or something, and Jacob's just complaining. Oh, lovely. What's it?
I think I dumped you out.
Let's say, whose screen should I be on right now?
Richard.
Okay.
Oh, you want to be on his? That's fine.
Okay, so I'm up here. I put the SSL in, right? So now we're gonna do that again. Whoop.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, it got mad at me, or just changed the
HTTPS. I'm failing. It's my bad.
Do I have a DNS over here that I'm supposed to use?
There we go. This was my bad. Sorry, I was doing a bad demo. SSL demonstrated. That was my bad. So modern versions. This is a good thing to know. So you all saw me struggling to get into my own server. Perfect. Yes, that's good.
Yes.
You can learn things from that. So first, browsers try to connect over port 80. You may remember from yesterday's stream, we opened that at Amazon. We didn't open it on the server.
Oh, okay.
It's not open on the server. Modern FileMaker Server doesn't open it, I'll say by default. And that is, there's some details there. So if you do the Let's Encrypt process today, it will open port 80 because that's part of the process for that. It'll also close it as soon as it's done. They are, for security reasons, locking FileMaker Server down over time. So if you are coming in on a fresh FileMaker Server, 21 specifically, I'm addressing that version, current in market version, you are going to have 2 ports available, 443 and 5003. That is web direct, admin console, all this stuff, management of the server generally, web access, containers also. Second, port 5003, that's the classic FileMaker Server, a Pro and Go, respectively, client ports. So that's it. If you need anything else, JDBC, ODBC, like, that kind of other stuff like that you might use, you need to open those. It's additional work. We're not showing it today, but just.
Okay. So what are we doing now? So how do we get to the?
So we're on here. So I'm going to go and do what we usually. So we'll go to the admin console.
Okay.
If you want to post your file, you can do that. You need to be on test.rcc.com.
Okay, that's the domain now.
Do you want to screen share demo?
Yeah, let me go back. So we're on FileMaker Server here. I told to up the share. It says we like to close the file. Now I have to put the server name in, which we did that. It was test.rcc.com, I think is what he said.
Yes.
I say save. It shows up. It says, hey, you need credentials. Once again, this is our super amazing server, which we'll
your
probably
admin and password.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it like that.
No, I mean, you have to type password.
Oh, it's password, sorry. Password.
Super secure.
Okay, so then here it is here. It's gonna upload it, it's gonna open it. So we've seen this
100. Server up, thanks.
Yes, please do not go and mess around with the server right now.
So then this will open, it'll be running. So then the next thing that we would need to do is we need to fix the RAM cache and then look at backups, right?
Yep.
Okay, so because those are the essential things, I'd say done.
I see one database. I see one connection. We're going to update to 0 of 1 or 1 of 1. So going to open the file. There it went. Nice. I'm watching on my screen.
Okay, great.
So then we have one Richard, and he's in here, and we have one FMSP Lite X5 posted live on the server.
Okay, great.
Beautiful. And so we're live. Like that's, your server's up. So what have we not done? You guys are looking at my screen.
Yep.
So there's a couple things that haven't been done. Built into FileMaker Server since a long time ago is a single daily backup, like at midnight. It keeps the last 7 days worth. That's it. They auto rotate out at the end, blah, blah, blah. Cool. If your data moves only really slowly and you just 5 records, maybe that's fine. For most of our customers, and indeed for RCC, that's not enough backups. You want max backups. You want to max them out. You want to have different backups for different purposes. There's a huge conversation to have about backup strategy in general. And for most customers, we do recommend at least weekly, daily, which you may have built in like this. Like I said, you can add more. We usually keep like 2 weeks worth. And then hourly backups. Some customers have data that I will say moves quickly enough. They want more. We have some customers that are on a 15-minute cycle for their backups. They have hourly, and then you build one that's like 15, 30, and 45 or something. You know, pick how you want it to be, but something like that. There are also, and I will show this once we get into the backups area, there are also progressive backups. Those are used differently for like record restoration. Sometimes it's a little hard on a Linux server, to be honest, but they're very useful. The reason they're very useful is because they're every 5 minutes. They're, again, harder to use than the other ones because the other ones are just copy paste. There's no real decision making. Oh, server fell over or crashed, or machine lost power, blah blah blah. Go find the latest hourly, copy paste. You're on to the next problem. Pop the server back up, you're good to go. So let's go into the backup area. On 21 specifically, you end up with a backup schedule. So this one that's called FMS, which is what we're seeing on the admin console. This is that default 7 daily at midnight, where there's nothing that shows up here. No backups were found. That's because none have been run, none have been taken. There's nothing saved. Fresh server we set up 10 minutes ago, sort of thing. Preserved. You may have noticed, let me go back here. So if we have a preserve backup button, you can preserve them. It sets them aside in their own folder and then does what it sounds like, which is it leaves them alone. They will sit there forever and take up disk space. That can be amazing because you had that copy forever. It can be terrible. It takes up disk space. Fine. There's a few settings we're talking about on the backup settings. Progressives, this is what I referred to earlier. These are every 5 minutes. They are an incremental backup. What that means is the very first time it runs, it's got to write out a whole copy of the database. But from that point forward, it only adds, like you change 10 records in the last 5 minutes or something, it adds 10 records in. It's very fast. It's very easy. For people that move, for data sets that, I say people that move, for data sets that move extremely quickly, it can also be helpful. It can also be slow, actually, in those cases. If you do lots of like vast volumes of record movement or something like that, I'm talking hundreds of thousands or millions on a 5-minute basis. There are some tuning recommendations we don't need to get into here, but fair warning. Parallel backups can be useful. We turn these on servers where you have lots of files. So if you have a multi-file solution, it can be super helpful. It kind of does what it sounds like. So if you only have one really big file, you're going to max out how fast the hard drive can go writing a backup out. That's fine. You don't need to really do anything to attain that, basically. But if you have 25 databases as part of a multi-file solution, for example, it may be that writing file 1, file 2, file 3, which it does in order, basically, during the backup system, that may not be fast enough. You may not be able to get your hard drive going fast enough to get the backup written out in a reasonable time period. You can turn on parallel backups. It'll help you with that. It does what it sounds like. It tries to write multiple files simultaneously. Keep canceled backups. I honestly haven't figured out a use for this. They introduced it into the product default on years ago, and I yelped because it blew up several of my servers in a row. Because, for example, if you fail a backup, because, for example, one of your engineers is doing a giant import that blows the backup up and you get the email that says this failed. And usually you just ignore that because come back in an hour and it'll run another one and it'll be fine. Keep canceled backups will keep those bum copies. That is probably helpful for somebody. I haven't figured out who yet. Somebody should let me know.
Not us, no one we know.
Yeah, not us and no one we know. So configuration, basics, stuff I want to hit here. The big one we always talk about is this here option at the top, which continues to be on by default. If your server crashes and burns and comes up again automatically, and that file is crashed, you've just crashed your server. If it then opens it automatically afterwards, you're opening a crashed file. The only time where it will fail to open a crashed file is if it's so badly burned that it's like gross negligence levels of structural damage. It will do a consistency check at that time. It'll check the file. It'll give you the thumbs up. That thumbs up will be false. You will have damage in your file. You will not know it until days, weeks, months later when additional problems accrue, when you face some issue. You bring it to somebody like us because you're having awful, weird behavior for some reason, or it fails to open, or something like this. And you'll come to us, and it'll be a very bad day, and we'll have to inform you that probably your server crashed months ago, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah," and we'll go find it in the log file because it'll be noted there, and then it will note that it passed the consistency check and opened. Bad. Don't do. Or sorry, bad.
Yeah,
Don't
this is a broader topic. Once again, this is probably a whole
I'm just hitting it
hour.
quickly.
I just hit it quickly. The short version is that let me back up. This option is on. This shit right here is literally driving. If you turn it on like this, it's like driving blindfolded down the freeway drunk. And you're gonna crash. It's gonna happen, and this is gonna cause bad things to happen. And if you're the kind of person you never go to jail and you never get hurt, then driving blindfolded drunk is okay. But the rest of us, we don't want to pay the bill on that, right? Go to hospital, get arrested. I mean, I'm being serious about this. I've had a couple of customers who absolutely refused to turn this off, and they would actively crash the servers. We had to agree to them or explain to them that we weren't going to be their developer anymore because we didn't want to get the phone call. We told them, "Hey, this is bad. You're driving. If I'm an attorney and you drive drunk down the freeway all the time, I say, quit doing it." And you're like, not only do you keep doing it, you invite the attorney into the car and you tell the attorney to hold your beer while you're doing it. The attorney's going to fire your ass. He doesn't want to be there when it goes bad. So this is a very big deal. Okay, everyone. So turn it off.
And they've added some stuff to try and make that safer. We don't trust it. Short version.
Yeah, no. Negative, Ghostwriter.
If you can avoid having that on at all, do so. That's all. A couple of our customers, they're like, "Oh, we can't accept it," and I go, "Okay," and I have to write them a very, very big, very pointed email about the large mistake that they're making in advance.
Which makes them mad. Some people don't like it when you tell them the truth. So.
Yep. I get, and we explain it all in full detail, and they go, "Oh, okay." Sometimes they change, and they go, "Oh, okay, we'll do it differently." Sometimes they're like, "No, it's more important," and I go, "Okay, then you're, accepting the consequences, basically."
Yes.
So, let's do the one thing that we really need to do here, which is set up a backup. So I mentioned before we have a 7 daily backup that's built in. You can always add more dailies. We tend to turn that daily backup off and add our own custom one because we keep 2 weeks instead of 7 days, 2 weeks instead of 1 week. So we're going to go to schedules, going to create a schedule. This still does not work on small screens. Perfect. Oh,
It
nope.
does.
It doesn't because I can't see the done button. So we're going to go hourly. I think I can tab to it though. Let's hope someone from Claris is watching so they can fix their interface. We're going to keep 24 backups because we're going to do it. This is going to be an hourly back. I named that correctly. Yes, I did. So there's a bunch of different schedule types. FileMaker script. This is like inside your database. System script. There's a few included by default, and then there's a special folder on the server side that you can put your own scripts in and then make FileMaker Server run them on this schedule. There's a script sequence. That's kind of the same thing, but multiple. And then there's a verify. This is interesting. It is a loud offline verification of your database. It closes the file, boots all the clients, does I think it's still just a big consistency check.
Yeah.
It's not even a full like a FileMaker Pro verification or whatever. But if it passes, it reopens the file. If it doesn't, it leaves the file closed. And if you have email notifications enabled, which I highly recommend on all FileMaker servers, even though they're kind of annoying, it will tell you if it fails, and that can be incredibly helpful. It's early identification of problems with the database. We've had some in production issues where the FileMaker server does something squirrely and causes an issue with the file. They've been fixing those bugs over time, so I'm not showing anybody's butt on live stream, but they exist. Those bugs have existed in the past and they've been fixed. and they have been detected by some of our competitors, in fact, who suffered those issues, and that has resulted in them, for example, doing that on a daily basis, doing a verify. That's a thing to know. We're not going to recommend people yet until it becomes obvious you really need to do that, but yeah. So one awkward thing about scheduling on FileMaker Server, you see we have once, daily, weekly, and every some number of days. You don't see an hourly here. It's because you have to manually construct from all of the ingredients your own hourly schedule. So we're going to start at midnight. We're going to repeat every, we don't want 10 minutes. We'll say 1 hour. That sounds like a good number for an hourly. And then we're going to scroll all the way down here. We're going to do 11 p.m. or 23 o'clock. And then, whoops, and then I'm going to tab and hope. Oh, and see, here's where we get it to show us all the dialogues. Perfect, I figured it out. All right, so end date, I don't need that. And we're going to go create. Now I can click the button. So now we have an hourly backup. We'll keep 24. Like I said, with the 7 daily, it just rotates them out at the end. You would do the same thing with a weekly schedule, which you should also set up. Tend to run, you have to think about when those should run for what makes sense for your business. If you're a 9 to 5 weekdays business, running it on a weekend is awesome, because then you have a spot over the weekend where we'll say nobody was in the system or something, that you can go back to if you need to. Review purposes, restoring a record, somebody deleted something last week and you're like, where did that go? Stuff like that. Super useful. So
Yeah, I like 11 p.m. Friday night for those things for me, but that's just me.
Yeah. Early Saturday morning is usually what we do. So yeah, basically the same thing. That's our standard on all of our servers at this point. You can do folders. This is cool. I'm trying to think. We did SSL earlier. We need to do the RAM cache. This is cool for Windows and Linux, or Windows, Mac, and Linux. So FileMaker Server 21. Right, so for WebDirect here, we don't have it turned on, and then WPE, Web Publishing Engine, is required to run WebDirect. So if you don't do, there's 2 toggles on screen here. You have to do both of them to get WebDirect. One note about, I'll call it platforms, that is Windows, Mac, Linux. Linux is the only one of these where it just has Java installed. And Java is the underlying programming language or environment for WebDirect, Web Presentation Engine, etc. Linux is the only one that just comes with it. On Mac and Windows, you will need to locate or install a Java. We use Corretto, which is an Amazon Java on both of those platforms. There are many OpenJDK equivalent, which is what it shows on screen here. It's all derived from the same thing. Don't worry too much about the differences. We recommend Corretto just because Amazon, we can let them, their engineers spend the money on keeping it up to date or whatever. But they're all good. I think Claris officially recommends adopt OpenJDK or whatever the current name of it is. They've renamed it like 3 times in as many years. And that's what comes on Linux by default. So like, it's fine.
Okay. When you're done with that part of the conversation, let me know. We have a couple relevant questions here.
Sure.
Okay. David Angel says, in backup settings, if we go back to the target directory, could that targeted directory location be a network storage?
No. Do
No?
not do that.
Why? Besides, you said no.
No, FileMaker Server has historically not allowed you to do that, period. I think at some point that quietly changed, but I'm going to tell you why it should still be no, even if the software lets you do that. First, network connections to backup systems like that are unstable, period. They always are. They will always fail. They will fail in awful ways that are difficult for FileMaker Server to recover from. We separately from so this is the FileMaker Server backup process itself that I'm addressing, the thing that spits an hourly, daily, weekly backup out onto the drive. First. Second, if you have an outside of FileMaker Server backup system, you have some application that's doing it, you have a script that does it, zips up a copy every so often and shoots it off to a couple places, whatever, stuff like that. Those are great because those can include logic or code that warms up the network connection if it's failed, resuscitates it, like whatever. The details per platform on that differ. But like as an example, on Mac, we use this program called Get Backup. It has a way in it where you can specify, yeah, I want to zip up a copy of like a daily backup or something and shoot it off to your NAS. That's a great like thing to do. It's redundant off the machine, and it's on your central storage system for your business. Love that. For on-site customers, fantastic. But your network often falls over, or like it times out and like you don't need the connection anymore, so it's just disconnected. FileMaker Server will not be able to resuscitate that at all. So it'll just fail. That's it. And if you don't have email notifications enabled, you will never learn that because it won't tell you. If you have an outside program, maybe it has an email notification built in and you can have it tell you, cool, fine, whatever. But realistically, you would use an application that is capable of bringing that connection back online. And then, yeah, sending the zip over. No
So
problem.
this is for, let me help everyone out here. So I said, so the answer technically, it might work, but
Yeah.
once with the overarching strategy, and I agree with this with Jacob, is so a couple things happen when you run a backup and FileMaker's running a backup. It pauses the database, essentially locks users out of doing it. They're stuck. If it runs over a very slow backup, then those users are going to be locked out for a long time. If you run a backup every 15 minutes, someone is going to run into that 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they're trying to get a report done, right? So what you want to do is FileMaker Server itself runs very fast backups to local drives. Then another program, another process has nothing to do with FileMaker, grabs 1 or more of those backups that were already created, already made, maybe an hour ago, maybe a day ago. It grabs them and it moves them to wherever you want it to move to, Dropbox or NAS or network storage. And so it's up to that program to successfully move it from point A to point B. FileMaker Server is still running a live database with a live file. It doesn't give it. It doesn't see that. It doesn't know about it. It's the vending machine. It has no to give. It just keeps going, right? So totally separate process to get handed off. Okay, great. Yeah.
Yep. And that's an architectural conversation. And also that's why we just recommend against it. You can usually do it. I have had customer systems fail in inscrutable ways because while something was happening on the FileMaker server, virtual machine, on-site customer, it lost access to that drive during the backup. That had bad consequences. I'm just gonna, yeah. We had to rebuild the machine. So it was not good. Don't put yourself in that position. Avoid finding yourself in that position. That's the best recommendation.
So Fogel says, so the Get backup software used on the Mac, is it this? He put a link in there in Discord.
Sure, probably.
BLightSoftware.com.
Sounds right. Yes.
Okay, great. Next question from Lynn from Austin. This is back to your intermediate certificate question. So Lynn is dealing with IT. I think it's University of Texas Austin or whatever, Texas Austin. I'm getting an orange lock on her lock, right? This intermediate thing. You said that means that the failed to include the intermediate certificate. Is that what I tell the IT department, or what else should I tell them?
You need to, so for troubleshooting an SSL problem like that, you need to click the lock and verify that all the host information looks correct to you. You put the host entry into your FileMaker Pro, verify everything matches up otherwise. If it does, yes, the problem is the intermediate certificate. IT people politely think that everything is a web browser, and they are incorrect. Web browsers are perfectly capable of locating intermediate certificates. There's a path thing that happens with SSLs from a root to an intermediate to the end. It's called the leaf certificate. Yes, it's like a tree. That's how they talk about it. And so browsers can do that. They've got 30 years of code under the hood to figure out that path. And so strictly speaking, a browser doesn't need an intermediate certificate. It either has one already or can figure it out. Pro doesn't and won't, period. Additionally, people with, like Apple, Claris Connect conversation from earlier, don't care if that's possible to do if you haven't provided all dots over I's and T's crossed perfectly at the front. They're not going to take it. They won't accept it. And so it doesn't in practice matter. The answer is always you need all 3 certificates. You need the key that you have, you need your intermediate certificate, and then you need, we'll call it your leaf certificate, but the end one, that's the one that's going to have your server's host name on it, which will be some, domain name generally. So. Okay,
great. There's a question from Lynn from Austin, and I'm probably going to want to save this for a different time, but Lynn's asking, Lynn said, hey, I've got 21.1, it's 21.0 or is it 21.1? It's 21.0.3. Is that what it is? Those the bug
That is the
fixes,
last
right?
21.0. Yes.
Yeah, and then the current well, there's currently 21.0.4, which is in market right now. I believe they Claris shipped
21.14.
21.14. Okay, yeah.
1.4.
He's leaving a decimal out of his question on Discord. He's asking about 21. Can I do an upgrade in place with that? And I don't know. At
Yes.
this point, the answer is yes, but
Do it.
Okay, just
Sorry,
do it.
I'm going to interrupt you. If you're on 21 already and you're not on the latest version of FileMaker Server, you need to upgrade.
Okay, but
And then my recommendation.
There is a .5 coming.
There will be a .5
this week or next week.
Yep. It will fix additional problems. Yep.
And you're going to want to run that one too. I think that's going to be a really big one.
It will be. Yeah. We'll probably, I don't know if we'll cover it like in its own thing because we'll see scheduling, et cetera, et cetera. But
yeah,
when that's out, expect it, look for it, update to it. We're expecting, we're not to give too much away, but we are expecting security fixes. You will like those. And if you work at a large IT organization, pitch your IT people on fixing security holes. Thank you. So that they'll give you all available assistance to get that done. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good way of selling an update is get the security fixes, right? Because it's hard to have an IT organization argue against, no, we don't want security fixes. That's the statement said right before they find a new job, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
it'll have some other bug fixes and stuff in it too. But if you need, if you need the sales pitch, give them the security end of it. They'll go, oh, okay, cool, got it.
That's it. Conversation's over.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we want to do here? We want to talk about what do we need to land? Because we're running long here, but I knew this would happen. We have the RAM cache. We can always do that tomorrow per se.
RAM cache. Yeah, RAM cache is pretty easy. So we're over here. We're on the command line. I've switched my screen back. I'm on command line for the server.
We see it.
This is my commentary. This should be on the admin console. It's not. I wish it were.
It used to be on the admin console.
Used to be.
I'm sure.
They took it with the new one in 17. They've brought everything else back since, except this. And the log file size. Actually, that one's not here either. So I'm just going to give you guys this command because it's not a hard one. There's a command line utility. You can do many different operations on a FileMaker server, but on the command line. This can be helpful. It's actually real. I think there's only a few things that are totally exclusive to it, but some of these like internal settings basically are those exclusive things. Oops, let me have to spell it correctly. My bad. Hold on. So it's FMS admin. That's what it sounds like. Set. There are different things that you could set here. So there's different config blocks, but we're going to do server config and then cache size, which is exactly what it sounds like. This server has 8 gigs of RAM. Historically, our rule of thumb is take a gig off. So it'd be 7 divided by 2, 3.5. Yes. That may be high given some other changes in the product recently. But if you have a file that's that big, do it. It can be smaller though. We generally set it to at least a gig. Unless the server is literally a medium, which means it has 4 gigs of RAM. Again, that's underspecified. It's not enough. It's less than you're supposed to have. If you're on an 8 gigabyte or greater, you really shouldn't use less than about a gigabyte of cache. Period. It should be at least that high. And again, a little less than half would be. You can't set it higher than half the machine memory. So.
Okay, so just to be clear to everyone on this is that the reason we're having this conversation is Claris out of the box by default sets it to like 64 megabytes or something.
512, yeah.
Is it that much now? It used to be 64.
Yeah.
It's 512. So it's a sufficiently small number that we had a customer 5 years ago. They bought literally a $10,000 or $12,000 piece of hardware.
Yeah.
And
it was when 128 gigs of RAM was like impressive.
Yeah, and they're over there. Our IT guys are badass. We got the best IT guys ever. So they buy their own server, roll their own FileMaker server, and they say, hey, we're having all these performance problems. And so Jacob sets them up on Amazon with a medium, some like micro tiny size server, and they're going, oh my God, your Amazon server must be the most amazing thing ever because it kicks the shit out of our $10,000 server. And the reason is that they never changed any of the stuff here. And so you could have a mediocre $50 a month server on Amazon blow the shit off a $10,000 server because the $10,000 server, the people thought they're brilliant, didn't read a lick of instructions on it, didn't talk to the professional consultants, and they left it in a default configuration. You change that number to a reasonable number, suddenly you get to take advantage of that $10,000. Otherwise, you're wasting it.
Yep. Yeah, that I run into that routinely. And I honestly, it's why I'm always advocating to have this number come back to the admin console, because a lot of people are like, if they don't see it, like it doesn't exist, and they don't go look at the documentation or what, find whatever. But like, if you put it on the admin console, people will know to play with that number. And whether they play with it correctly is a whole other conversation, but better turning it up a little bit than not at all. And
by far,
that particular customer literally had it at the default. So they had a 512 megabyte cache, and I think we put one customer up, and it was maybe a couple gigs, and it's just because that amount of memory covered the necessary records that they were hot in the system. All the people were touching it all day or whatever, like they could store it in RAM on the server. That's immediate and massive performance improvement for the system, period. It's the two top. We've done different FileMaker Server tuning streams over the years, but the two top things are put it on an SSD and an NVMe SSD if you can, and then turn the RAM cache up. That's that's 1 and 2. I forget which order we put them in, but like
those are critical. And then you do some design. You listen to Richard. We do some basic training and learn how to build things correctly.
And then you suddenly get the design.
The FileMaker stuff, right? Yeah, and then then suddenly you have a piece of software that works pretty well, and you're like, hey, this works pretty good. It's like, yeah.
Yep. There's a question in Discord I'm going to address because it's 100% relevant here. Alex from YouTube asks, for backups, is it okay to have a separate attached EBS backup volume? Yes, absolutely. You can do that. So I addressed it in the stream a little bit yesterday, or kind of alluded to it. There's a couple situations where you want, we'll say, multiple hard drives on your virtual server in Amazon. One of them is like if you have a ton of container data or something like that, just you have your big stuff drive basically. That can be useful. The other is, if you want like a separate drive for backups, you can set up snapshots attached to that extra drive, and then schedule it for a time the backup's not happening. And then you'll always have, on Linux anyway, on a FileMaker Server Linux in Amazon, you'll always have good backups, and they'll be, you can do hourly, top of the hour, and then snapshot it at 30 minutes or something like that. You'll be good every time. So and that, let's see, if you change the setting, need to restart. Most of them, thankfully.
That's what I just said. Half the time it's yes.
And most of the time you don't need to restart, but like demonstrated today, if you do something with the SSL, yes.
I don't think the RAM cache takes effect unless you do a restart.
It does. Yeah.
Does it now?
It didn't used to.
Didn't used to. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Can I back up and just tell everyone, instead of trying to remember the things that require, just restart. Just restart. So final, and I'll say this, we're not going to finish all the little details, and there's a bunch of additional little detail stuff that you could do here. You don't have to. The final step in setting up any FileMaker server will always be to reboot it before you take it live. On every platform, Mac, Windows, Linux, there are things that have been changed by actions you've taken that aren't live yet. They'll show correctly on the admin console. They've saved the setting. That's true, but it doesn't apply until you reboot the software. You can, backup schedules are not one of those. I changed
backup schedules are not one of those. Correct.
So
you can import those live.
You can, willy-nilly with that, but everything else you need to be suspect about. So
there's enough stuff, and again, it's mostly credit to Claris. They've improved lots of that stuff over time. As Richard says, it used to not adjust the RAM usage, the RAM cache. That didn't used to apply live. You had to reboot it to apply the setting. And that's what I'm saying. Your last step is always just a reboot, because it won't matter if the answer to that question is yes or no if you reboot at the end.
Yeah, and it won't matter. So there you go. How do you tell the current cache size? That's a good one.
Let me do the command for it. So it's FMS admin is on the command line. It's the only place you can see it.
Yep.
The admin APIs, no one on this stream is
no, we're not
dealing
talking
with
about
that,
right
but
now.
Server config. So, and it's like I said, set server config, and then I did the specific detail of which one I want to set. So we're going to do get, and it'll print out the whole thing. This is asking me for the admin console credentials. That's
Which
why
is admin password, whatever.
Yeah. And so there's
there you go.
And so there's a few different settings in here. The other one that we often set, I didn't give the example, but you could work this out yourself, is we do the log size. We tend to turn that one up. It's not something that like affects performance or something like that, but we tend to turn it up to 100 because that gives you 100 megabytes of log file.
Okay.
So in case you're if you're me, and you're trying to go in and figure out what happened with the FileMaker server, greater volume of logs is greater ability to review history of that server.
I will simply point out that if you play with this and you turn up to 2000, feel free to shoot me an email to let me know if it explodes, because not that you turned it up to 2000. Anyone could set to 2000. If you actually connect 1995 pro users, take some screenshots. I want to see that, because I even money it'll.
Yeah, they certified it for 2000, but we haven't seen it. We'd love to see it.
All right, everyone, we're going to be back tomorrow.
We'll set up a Windows. We're going to do a Windows VM tomorrow, which will be a lot of, I don't know, configuring hard drives and stuff.
Okay.
All right.
And then that leaves us for Friday for the final
FileMaker server install, on Windows.
Windows. Okay.
Cool.
Countdown. Okay.
All right, everyone.
Bye,
See you.
everybody.